for today will be Denise Held from the Detroit area.
Mark caught me off guard last night. As soon as we got here, he asked me to do this speaking for the workshop, and you're not supposed to say no in Narcotics Anonymous, so of course I am up here speaking. I chose vigilance because I am very vigilant in chasing my recovery. I'm very vigilant on working the steps, getting with a sponsor. I do procrastinate on things such as the 4th step. I don't know an addict that doesn't. You know, if you meet an addict that runs into the 4th step, then you know there's something wrong with that one. And the biggest fear about the 4th step is opening up that can of worms and getting to the feelings and getting to our past mistakes and having to work through it. I think that's my fear around the 4th step, so I kind of procrastinate on it. I'll work on it, I'll put it away, I'll get it back out. But the vigilant part is no matter what occurs in my life, I know that recovery has to come first, no matter what I lose, no matter what I'm going through, no matter who dies from this addiction, no matter what, I have to have vigilance on working the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous. Because if I don't, I'm not going to change. I'm going to stay a dry drunk or a dry dope fiend with the same character defects and the same behaviors that got me here. So my best thinking got me here, so why would I want to remain that person? I wouldn't. And the only way to change is to work these steps with vigilance, without stopping, without shying away from meetings, you know. Sometimes some of us don't want to go to meetings, so we just stop, and then you're back to being that crazy person in your head, you know, doing your best thinking, and your best thinking got you here. And I know that when I took 2 months off from Narcotics Anonymous in my entire time of recovery, and I was a mess. I was a hot mess, a miserable person. I'm doing real good, as long as I don't swear. The vigilant part about recovery is going to a meeting when you don't want to, when everything inside you says, stay home and watch the Red Wings game. It's an important one. For me, I know that if I didn't have the vigilance about my recovery, I would be dead. I wouldn't be out using, because that's not an option for Denise. I'm a full-blown addict. When I go out, I'm going out, you know, and we bury people every week in Macomb County. Every week we're burying somebody from addiction, and a lot of it is because they stopped going to meetings. They stopped having vigilance in their recovery and in their life. And I can be a real good sharing person up here, but if I don't live the steps and what recovery has given me, then I'm just a real good sharing person, and I'm going to wind up dead too, one way or another. My best thinking would be that I can skip on some steps, you know, and I don't need a 4th step. And a sponsor's just someone that tells me what to do, so God knows I don't want that. And I could just work my way right out of the program and be okay, you know. But I know from you people and coming here, I've been coming here for 14 years, and I love this place. And every year that I come, I get filled. This is where I get replenished to go through my whole year, no matter what hits me, no matter what comes at me, death of a parent, loss of a job, loss of a marriage, no matter what it is, as long as I continue to have vigilance in my higher power, because without God, I would not be up here. I would not be clean. I would not be alive. He's the only person that saves my ass. And for a long time, I've been praying to get closer to him, you know, to have a better working relationship with my higher power. And the more I prayed this, the more things I lost in my life. Important things, things that meant the world to me. A lot of materialistic things and a lot of things inside. And I didn't realize that each time that I lost something, that I was on my knees and I was crying and I was praying and I was getting closer to him, but I didn't see it. I didn't see it till I was stripped and raw, until I was like broken. And then I realized what my higher power was doing was bringing me closer, because I had no choice. In order to live through everything and not use, I had to depend on him 24/7. It was a minute at a time that I stayed clean. I was no longer just floating along in recovery. I was actually having to work vigilantly to stay clean. And if I didn't, I would have used. You know, one of my good friends that came to Camp Mac every year with me committed suicide. And it's been, what, about 8 weeks, 9 weeks? And it was really sad to watch his life unravel and his recovery become unimportant and his justifications of Vicodin and, you know, all the other little recreation drugs that we do from the doctor that we call medicinal, they'll still kill you. They're still just like doing a pack of dope, you know, because he's dead. And it was all because his back hurt or his knees hurt or whatever he made in his head hurt that week, you know. And it's sad because I used to tell him, you need to come to meetings, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to reach out. And no matter what we tell people until they get it in their heart, they're just like Scott, you know. And we brought his ashes and we're going to spread them here because he loved Camp Mac. This was one of his favorite places to be in the whole world. And what that does is help me stay clean. It really does. You know, we lose people all the time, and their death only makes it make more sense to stay clean and have vigilance, because I don't want to be, and you'll see them in your meetings, no matter where you are, Detroit, Indianapolis, doesn't matter. There are people that come into the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous, sit at a table and share, and you know just by their sharing that they don't have a clue, because they're not cracking their book, they're not learning the traditions and living them. They're not doing what they speak. They're just putting out a blanket. And then they go out and they live their lives just like an old dope fiend. And they're shooting moves and they're doing things different because they're not having vigilance in their recovery and in their life. You know, this is a journey. And when we all got clean, it was our first step toward the journey. And I've gone over mountains, I've done valleys, I've done, you know, crevices and seas, it seems like, in my life, in my recovery. And I know if I just keeping on and don't use no matter what, that tomorrow I'll be okay. I'll be okay. You know, my higher power told me that as long as I come before him and I ask and I am sincere and I am wholeheartedly one of his people, that he will take care of me, and I have to believe that today. You know, Narcotics Anonymous is a guide to life. It's not, when I leave here, you people ain't with me. None of you are with me. I have to go out into the world and I have to behave and act appropriately, and I have to have vigilance in other areas of my life. It's not just not doing dope. I wish it was. I wish it was that damn easy. It's not. It's don't lie, don't steal, don't cheat, don't manipulate, you know, because we're real good at manipulating. All of us are. That's why we're here. And the vigilant part about me is, you know, for 20 years I've come in Narcotics Anonymous. I haven't relapsed because I'm too afraid to go back out. I won't make it back in. So I just vigilantly work these steps. I write, I journal, and a journal helps me see where I have grown, where I have gotten stagnant, you know, where I got through a bad relationship and how I did it without using. My dad died. How'd I get through that without using, you know, because my mom's getting ready to die. So I'm going to have to go back to that journal and read how I got through that death without picking up and do it again, you know. And no matter what happens in life, it's life on life's terms. We can't control things around us. I can't control my husband using. I can't control my job firing me after 17 years. I cannot control these things. They're out of my control. My bike broke down yesterday, and you talk about powerlessness to the core, man. And you know, for a minute, that old behavior came out. I'm not going to lie to you. For a minute, I turned into a little brat. I'm going to stomp my feet and act like a little brat. And, brat. Yeah. And, but you know what? A peace came over me, and it was a part of the powerlessness. It was a part of the program that stepped in and said, you know what, Dee? This is just a broken belt. It'll get fixed and life goes on. It's not that big of a deal. And that's how I have to look at a lot of things, you know. Recovery's not one of them. If I put anything before my recovery, I won't be clean. And it doesn't matter what it is. My job, my school, my lover, no matter what it is, if I put it before my recovery, I will lose all of that, because it's my recovery that blessed me with all of that. You know, if God didn't bless me with recovery, I wouldn't have a job because I wasn't employable. I wouldn't have you people as friends because I'd still be out in the streets with dope fiends. I wouldn't have all the things that having vigilance in my program has brought me. the peace, the serenity, the self-respect, the self-esteem, all the things I didn't have when I got here. Having vigilance and working, reading books, doing workshops. I was in therapy for 11 years, for God's sakes. I was a messed up puppy. So, and who wants to go to therapy for 11 years? Nobody. But I was that messed up. So in order to work through everything, I had to have vigilance and keep going and keep paying that woman. and keep paying that woman, you know what I'm saying? And through all of that, though, I got through a lot of things. A lot of things that I would stuff, a lot of things that caused me pain, a lot of things that I didn't want to face that were ugly about me, and I didn't have to use, and I healed from them. And now my recovery is so much better and stronger. My foundation's pretty firm. I'm not worried about going out and using tonight. I'm worried about getting through a day without lying, stealing, cheating, manipulating, or doing any other moves. Those are the things that have to be vigilant for Denise. Everybody's different. We all have the same common denominator. That's why we're here. We're all addicts. But each one of us have a different story. Each one of us has different boogaboos in our closet, shall we say, skeletons. And if you don't have vigilance on working on them, they're going to continue to haunt you. They're going to continue to pull you down and stifle. And then the next thing you know, you're going to get a case of the who cares, yeah. I am working very hard at this, I want you to know, because I am a sailor. And everybody knows it. So, for me to be standing up here doing this good is awesome. I asked God on my way here to help me control my behavior and my speech, because it doesn't make me look any better, and it's just a habit that I have acquired that I'm trying to get rid of. And, it's just like anything. It takes time, it takes work, and it takes a conscious effort. And that's the same as our recovery. If we don't chase our recovery with vigilance, we'll be just like Scott. Scott sits in a little jar up on a shelf in my room next to his picture right now. And he's hanging with us, and he's going to hang all weekend with us. But we're going to spread him, and we're going to pray over him, and we're going to let him go. And it's because he didn't work the program with vigilance. Not because his life was so terrible. It wasn't. He was married. He had a house. He had a car. He had things. He didn't have the BIDOC for a home. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't take not having nothing to lose hope. It really doesn't. And I know that my higher power provides me with hope, and I have faith that he'll take care of me. I have faith that tomorrow will be a better day. And the vigilant part for me, truthfully, is fixing Denise. It's not fixing Narcotics Anonymous. It's not fixing all my sponsees. It's not fixing the broken marriage or the broken relationship. It's fixing me, because all of that will fall into place as long as I fix how I react to what happens in the situations around me. So I work on fixing Denise with vigilance, because I'm a huge project. Thank you.
Registration office you think I'm sharing today. But if you looked at it, it's been crossed off a couple of times, and that's because I have a friend that I wanted to have share on this topic, and I signed his ass up. And he kept bailing on me, and when I signed him up, I had decided that I would do that because I have plenty that I could share on both procrastination and vigilance, and that if he wouldn't do it, that I would. And last night he swore he wasn't going to do it. But I asked him again this morning, are you sure you do or you don't want to do that? And he said that he would go ahead and do it. So it's not going to be me. Lucky you. I've known this guy for a few years now, but in the last year, I've got to know him real well. We've begun working together and doing various things together. We hang out. I go see him out where he lives. He comes to see me here, and I love him to death. He's got a great heart. He's got a great heart for Narcotics Anonymous and the 12 Steps. And I wanted him to share on this because I believe he has something to share on both vigilance and procrastination and where he's at in his life right now. And he's an entertaining motherfucker. She didn't cuss, but I'm gonna. It is what it is. Without further bullshit, I give you Jesse P.
I'm Jesse, I'm an addict. And my sponsors D-bag. We were looking through the worksheet list, and he asked if I wanted to share on any of them, and I'm looking at him. I'm like, no. No, I'll go sell merchandise, man. And he signed me up for the procrastination one, and I gave him the finger and said a couple things to him, and but he was dead honest and dead. He's been on me about this new inventory I've been doing, and it's been a long time I've been sitting on this thing, man. And I had to realize that. I mean, he was right. And the funny thing, well, not so funny, but I actually got the inventory done except one section at the end. And I was planning on doing it last night. I packed all my stuff. I got ready Thursday night, put it all in my truck, went to work, left right from work to here, and forgot to pack it. And I'm like, real nice. And it must have been like a Freudian slip or something. I don't know. Not that I have real crazy bugaboos or nothing in there. It's just it's been a tough year, and by nature, there's a lot of fear that I have, and I've always been an individual that is 100% uncomfortable in his own skin all the time. And this past year, I started going to therapy for it because there was a lot of other issues that were going on, that a lot of painful situations happened this year. And I started feeling a lot of those emotions, and I realized that most of the reason why I can't move on, or I refuse to move on, is because I'm afraid. And which is crazy, because when I first came around, I'd hammer out these steps. I'd be as honest and thorough as I could. I'd give them to a sponsor, and we'd work through this process. And then ever since me and that sponsor had parted ways, I've always had a real hard time connecting with another one, and I went through more and more. And so as a result of that, my steps would lax, and I got real comfortable in that. And right now I'm in a situation where, I got some real life expectations in my program. Hey, you're expected to do this. You're responsible for this. You're responsible for your program. And that's all stuff that intellectually I understand, and in my heart I understand, but I'm so afraid. It's just the truth. I'm being honest. I don't know what it is in my heart that's afraid to be vulnerable and open up to another individual, but I have it. And so I need to kick that in the ass, and I need to fight that. I need to. There's a defect there that it's probably always been there, but just recently walls have come up. So that's part of the procrastination part. I know that I get real uncomfortable in my own skin the longer apart I get from connecting. I get angry, and I would love to be able to put in my head and in my heart to live by the principles within the 12 steps all the time. But for whatever reason, that's not enough for me. So I try to live by a code that no person can live by. And so that I just kill myself in that process, and it's crazy, and I should relax a little bit, considering that's one area of my life that's extremely difficult, but most everything else I'll let go. I don't care, But as far as the vigilance side, I remember when I first had a moment where I started taking this program seriously and I had to change my life, that the basics were there, and we complicate them horrendously. But it's really a simple thing, and it's all about relationships. The bottom line, having real life relationships with people, allowing yourself to open up to somebody else, allowing yourself to be responsible and accountable to somebody else. this whole program forces you to look at, you look at the basis of the 12 steps is to get your own stuff out of the way, connect with a higher power, and connect with others. And that's the whole bottom line. And it's funny, our basic text talks about relationships are a terrible stumbling block in our so that's one thing I hold with extreme value is the relationships I have in my life. And I have few. The base that I've had has gotten smaller over the years. And I don't know what that is. You come around for a little bit and you realize that there's a lot of people that you just really don't have, I don't want to say use for, because that's a horrible judgmental thing to say, I guess, but fuck them, I don't got no use for them. You start seeing people for who they are, and you're like, wow, man, how did I ate dinner at your house, dude? Oh, man, But, and I don't know what that is, but that's kind of the truth for me. So there's certain relationships that I really hang on to, and the biggest fear that I'm having and the biggest stumbling block as I'm having, and is a lot of people have been talking about this person that passed away, and there's a person in my life, and I'm sure most of you know the situation. His name was Matt, and he committed suicide December of this past year, and he was the closest person I had in my life besides my wife and kids. We got clean together, and you see one, you see the other, and we were brothers, and it was a really challenging relationship. And when this happened, there was a lot of things that I saw in other people that really disgusted me and really hurt me, and I knew that there was times that he was hurt in that process, so I have I'm not really open to forgiving a lot of those people right now, and that's tough because I know that's not okay. That's going to keep me stuck. It's not going to keep me wanting to move forward. All that's going to do is make me not want to trust somebody again. And that's horrible, man. I remember living like that back in the day, before I come around here, not trusting, being paranoid, not liking people, irritated all the time, putting that mask on that I'm the real happy guy and the big party animal, but on the inside I want to hurt somebody, and I see that guy coming out at me more, and I'm realizing it's a direct result of my procrastination and being so fearful that I don't want to move forward. The solution to that is to just do it. Even if I'm not feeling it. You always heard that thing, and it used to irritate you when you come around, fake it till you make it. We gotta fake it till you make it. We're gonna love you till you love yourself. Fuck out of here. But it's the truth. I have to trust this process again. I have to put some faith and hope in this process again. Even if I don't believe in it again, I have to just do the footwork and see what happens, because that's where faith comes in. Faith doesn't come in when all of a sudden something happens and I believe. No, faith comes in that when you do it because you don't believe, and then all of a sudden a miracle opens up, doors open up. That's where faith comes in. And for a long time, I'm realizing that I've lost that. I started not trusting this process, but I was vigilant. What's wrong with me? I'm like a newcomer trying to read, man. Anonymity. Anonymity. Yes! What's the under and over this guy messes up anonymity? But one thing that I was vigilant on was the relationships. And those are the things that I just couldn't. My whole world is surrounded by recovering addicts. Everybody I know that I'm really close to is a recovering addict. I got some friends that are normies, but they're sick, man. I can't hang with those guys. Mostly people from work. But other than that, my whole life's surrounded by it. They're members of my family. You know, that's how it is. Birthday parties, kids' birthday parties, everything. My whole life. My whole life has changed around as a result of this fellowship. And I've been blessed tremendously as a part of that. But that's the main thing that has me keep coming back is those relationships. But along that process, if I didn't trust and I didn't open up and I didn't let myself be vulnerable, I wouldn't allow the blessing of having those relationships, and it'd be real easy to feel alone and stuck in a room full of people if I didn't do the footwork. And that's what it's about. You know, we always hear, you know, and I heard this coming around, and I call bullshit on it. You know, the people will say, you know, this program works for people who want it. I don't believe that. I believe that because everybody wants it. You know, people, I mean, you know, people who are dying tonight in the street, I'm sure they want to live clean. You know, nobody wants to be a drug addict. You know, nobody wants to steal, rob, lie, manipulate, hurt. Nobody wants that shit. So, of course, they want to be clean, but only few do the footwork. So I think the program works for the people who do the footwork, not for the people who want it. Because as an addict, if I want something, that means I could lie, cheat, manipulate somebody else, get it for me. You know, and it's funny. Program don't work that way at all. But I don't know. With that being said, man, you know, relationships are the key for me that keeps me coming back in these moments where I'm fearful and hurting and doubtful and my faith is weak. And eventually my heart will change. You know, I have to trust that. I have to allow myself the freedom to be wrong. I have to allow myself the freedom to make mistakes, you know. And if I didn't have these relationships in there, I would take that to a really dark place, you know. So I don't know, that's kind of out there, but that's some deep metaphysical spiritual shit there I just said there, and I just dropped that, and that's my best too, man. That's all I got, you know. I mean, I just gave you everything I had, man, and I got a bunch of people like, is this motherfucker done yet? I need a cigarette, shit. All right, thank you, Jim, for manipulating me to do this workshop. I appreciate that. That's all I got, guys.
For sharing, remember that you are being taped. If you wish not to be taped, please let me know so the tape can be turned off. Anybody care to comment?
I'm not named Bob. Thanks both of you for sharing. It was enlightening. And Denise, much better than last year. Cleaned it up. Yeah, vigilance and procrastination. I procrastinated around here for a long time. Just didn't use, but wasn't willing to be vigilant about any of the suggestions that Jesse was talking about, you know, the footwork. You know, I was just a miserable, abstinent person. But like we all know, eventually the pain gets great enough. And you either work the steps or you stick a gun in your mouth or hang yourself or go back to what we know to self-medicate. And I don't know what anybody else's cake recipe is. But for me, it took about 5 years before I became vigilant enough to take some of the suggestions, and it was because of the breakup of a relationship. And if you'd have told me at that time to go out there and stand in the middle of 15 on my head, and I would have felt better, I would have taken that suggestion because that's what the pain got to. Suicide was looking real good, clean. I didn't want to use. I didn't want to give a couple people up there in Macomb County the satisfaction of saying, see, I told you. Yeah. You know who I'm talking about up there. the brain surgeons, sharpest carpet measurer in Detroit. And so, I started doing some work, and what I realized today, that my higher power put people in my life at a certain time to point out certain defects that I was willing to take a look at and willing to work on. And one person gave me a CD by Tom Brady Jr. called Emotional Sobriety, and he talks about, what Jesse was talking about, perfection. Whatever I'm doing is never good enough. I'm a chronic malcontent. That the core of the disease for me is not self-centeredness. It's self-hatred. People who do to themselves what we do to ourselves really don't like ourselves. People who sit on milk crates until your ass says Dairy Maid, trying to smoke an empty antenna or shoot a vein that ain't there, don't know anything about self-love. And that's what this program is about for me today. It's self-love. It's about treating myself as good as I treat you. See, I'll give you the shirt off my back, but don't you dare give me yours. And all that codependent crap that, allows me not to look at me, because that's the ultimate thing I want to do. I'll distract myself in whatever manner it is, whether it's writing the steps or going to 12 meetings a day or whatever it is, so I don't have to look at me. And that's the ultimate problem. And I believe today that the 12 steps are the answer, and the only thing that stands in the way of that is me. I'm unwilling to take the action necessary to change, because usually the pain hasn't gotten great enough, and I'm comfortable in the gutter rather than jumping up on the curb. I can handle a whole bunch of pain. That I have 3 older brothers that are dead from this disease. I've got 30 plus ex-club brothers that are dead from this disease. It's taken bigger people than me and stronger people than me and handsomer people than me. I know that's hard to believe, but it'll kill you. And we see it all the time, like Denise was talking about in Macomb County. It's a shame, because once you get here and you see that this is the way, I don't know. In my mind, how do you understand and sit at a table and talk about how good your life is, and then next week kill yourself? I don't get that, guys. I don't get that. I'm glad that this makes sense today. I hope it makes sense tomorrow. But this is tough stuff, man. Growing up in public ain't easy. 57 years old, still insecure and immature, and don't know how to have a relationship, and all that stuff that I was told at an early age, if you want something to cry about, I'll give you something to cry about. And men don't talk about this kind of stuff, and this is stuff that stays in the house, and all that sickness that kept me sick longer than I needed to be. This is tough stuff. So I'm glad I'm here at Camp Mac again. This is a wonderful place, and thanks for listening.
I'm still an addict named Jim. When we at the committee when I presented the committee with these topics, typically programming, you just dig up a bunch of spiritual principles, you can throw them out there, they're topics. They will encompass, all you got to do is have spiritual principles, and anybody that gets up here to share on them is going to touch all over recovery and where they're at in their life with it. Well, when I produced these topics and brought them to the committee for approval, there's a couple of them in there that pertained more to what was going on in my life and things that I may have learned in the last year. And this is one of them. In the time that I've been around here, I've done some serious procrastination in Narcotics Anonymous, and I know what the issues with that are. But in the last few years, with the shit that I've walked through, and Denise touched on this, was that when life is really good, I had found myself in a position where I lived in a decent house. The bills weren't a big issue. We had, some money in the bank. would come home from work and everything was calm, cool, and collected. I had plenty of time to work on step work because life was at an even keel, but I didn't. I just kicked back because life was smooth. I thought I had found peace, inner peace. What inner peace is that I learned has nothing to do with being in a peaceful position in life. I hadn't found inner peace. I had found a peaceful place to live. When it's peaceful around me, it's pretty easy to be at peace. Somebody that's found inner peace is the person that's dealing with a whole bunch of shit and drama in their life right then, and they can still remain at peace. That's true inner peace. But the vigilance and procrastination, I mean, the vigilance thing, and I learned this because of the shit that I went through for the last few years, just like Denise was saying. All of a sudden I could get vigilant. Well, in that was a gift, and the gift was when I get vigilant and I start doing the work, I start seeing the results again, and remember the gifts that I get when I'm being vigilant and I'm working my steps and I'm doing the stuff with my sponsor and all this shit that everybody tells me that's lip service, but it's not, man. It's the fucking reality, and if you don't know it, start doing it. Prove me wrong, bitch. I dare you. Get that textbook out, start working some steps with your sponsor. You come back here next year, I dare you to tell me your life didn't improve. And if you do, you didn't do your steps because you're a fucking liar. You know? But the example for that I was thinking about when I was getting all vigilant and all that stuff and procrastination, and I'm thinking about all this stuff, and I'm talking to my sponsor about it, and we were talking about, you know, higher power and when do I reach out to my higher power and this and that. And I was thinking back of the old banging days and going, man, how many frickin' times while I was cheating, stealing, toting guns, threatening to kill people, all of this shit, shit, I overloaded. Now God exists. I'm on my knees, my heart's coming out of my head somewhere, my fingertips feel like they're going to explode, and I'm praying to this, God, please, just let me live through this one. I still got some shit I planned on doing, you know, God bless, oh, you know, come on, man, let me live through this, oh, shit. Okay, it's getting better, I can feel my fingertips again, okay, it's getting better, walk back over to the table, what do I got left, you know? Get all kinds of vigilant about God when I think I'm about to die, but the minute everything evens out, whatever, just move on. Well, that's part of my character defects and my shortcomings. That's the procrastination. That's that same, when I need you, I'll come and I'll get you. And if I treat Narcotics Anonymous the same way, I'm not going to get all the benefits that I can get from Narcotics Anonymous. Well, I'm only going to do step work when my life sucks. Well, that's not a good idea. You know, and it's been proven to me. And one of the evidences that I found about being vigilant and working on stuff, I spent like 5 years, I fell in love years ago, this was before my marriage, and I moved to a different town, and I was working up in Michigan and living down in Fort Wayne on the weekends, and I was skipping meetings because I couldn't get a click with all that, and I stayed in service, and I kept all my NA friends around me, but I went to very few meetings, and I wasn't doing anything with my sponsor. And things were just going backwards, man. You know, there was no vigilance at all. And I had to move back up here and move in with some addicts and get reconnected and restarted. I mean, it's a miracle that I didn't end up going in the wrong. When I moved back up here from that situation, if I hadn't been smart and hooked up with some very good friends of mine that I had known from a time in recovery, and I had the money, I had a good job, I could have just gone out and rented an apartment. But I knew when I moved back up here that I better get near somebody. So I did, and there's that vigilance there. I mean, life was crashing, but I was still fairly stable. I could have still maintained. But something popped into my head telling me, you know, you better get around some addicts and get back into the thing, or you're going to end up dead. Because I haven't relapsed since I got here, but it's simply because I was so trashed when I got here. I had already spent so many times living a 5 or 6 year relapse trying to be clean. But if I went back out, I can't picture making it back. I'd be so disgusted, so much time wasted. That's all I got.
I'm an addict. My name is Bruce W. I'd like to thank the God of my understanding for being here clean. You know, one of the things, sitting here listening, one of the things that I've learned since I've been here, vigilance has played a very important part of my recovery. When I came in here December of 1992, I got a sponsor. I wasn't going to work no steps for a year. You people was crazy. I don't see how you smoke crack and walk the streets all night. You just smoke it. When you ain't got no more, you go home and go to sleep. And I found more differences. And if I didn't like him and you hugged him, I didn't like you. And if you hugged her, I didn't like you. And the more I resented people and disliked it people and what I wasn't going to do and never done, I wind up going out and did everything that I said I wasn't going to do. I walked the streets all night, and the worst thing about it, when I was out there, was I seen more people in Narcotics Anonymous when I was using than I did when I was in NA. I'm talking about going copping, and before you leave the guy's house, you look out the door and he said, "The police out there?" You said, "Nah." "Well, won't you go?" "Wait a minute." And for real, I be looking so I could come out and wouldn't run. I don't worry about the police. You know, I pray to God so they can keep on going. But then you NA people ain't gonna keep going. You'll pull up on me and say, "Where you going? Where you been?" "Oh, well, I go to meetings and such and such." And then you'll say, "Well, we ain't seen you. Your sponsor's at the meeting." "Well, I got a new sponsor." "What's his name?" "Harold. He lives in such and such." "Why your fists all balled up?" Then I get mad and cuss you out. So when I went out and I come back, December of 1993, that's my clean date. The most powerful message I heard when I went into recovery, in the recovery place I went in the treatment center, people in Narcotics Anonymous worked there. They didn't hug me and tell me it's okay, and they didn't do all that old, I called it feeding the disease. The most powerful message I heard that day was from an addict that come up to me, and I said, "I'm back." And he come up to me and he said, little short guy, he said, "What you gonna do different?" I said, "F you, you little SOB." And he turned around and left. That night in treatment center, I went in to give you a notebook and a paper and all this stuff. And I went in there and I said my prayers, and I got in bed and I laid there and I couldn't sleep. What I kept hearing in my head was, "What are you going to do different?" That was December 10th, 1993. That night, I got back out of bed, I grabbed that pen, and I began to write in treatment. My first 5 years of recovery, I filled out a living the program every night. I go to the meetings, I get them, because you people wasn't using them. I get them all out the thing. I would date them, and I'd fill them out. I did that for 5 years. And on the back of living the program, it says, "Today let my word show my life how to be." That little part back there you write on, the stuff that I couldn't get in them little spots, I began to write it back there. Every week I went over it with my sponsor. And one of the things I learned, and that was through living the programs, was it said, "What spiritual principles have you practiced today?" And I put on this one question one time, I put open-minded and willingness. Then up front it said, "What did you do today that you wish you hadn't done?" "Stole the wire extensions out of AutoZone." "What do you wish you could have done today?" "Paid for them." So when I got back there and it said, "What spiritual principles have you practiced?" I just put open-minded and willingness. When I went over it with my sponsor, he said, what happened to honesty? I said, see over here, I stole the wires. Those things you hook the wires to make your speakers work. I stole that, so I wasn't honest, but I was open-minded and I was willing. He said, no, hell no. He said, that don't work like that. I said, what you mean? I'm being honest. He said, if you stole it, you knew it wasn't yours, right? Yes. You stole it, right? I said, yes. He said, you wasn't open-minded to pay for it. You wasn't open-minded to put it back. And you wasn't willing to pay for it. You wasn't willing to put it back. So you didn't practice no spiritual principles today. I looked at him, I said, oh, okay. He said, for real, you can't be open-minded and not be honest, or be honest and open-minded and not be willing. He said that the book says it's 3 indispensable principles: honesty, open-minded, and willingness. And the more I done that, and the more after that I began to, I was writing my steps then, but what I've learned is my first step, I have to be honest with myself. I have to surrender. I have to get some acceptance that I got to come to meetings the rest of my life. And I got to get honest. I got to practice some humility. I can't tell my sponsor I just used dope and people just brought it to me. No, I got to get honest. Women ain't the only ones sell their body for drugs. Addicts do. We do things that we normally wouldn't do. So when I got honest with my sponsor in the first step, I ain't had no problem with steps since. When I got to the 4th step, I didn't have no fear about no 4th step. I needed to find out what made me go use drugs. I didn't wake up one day and say I'm going to get high. And then I don't even like to use the word high because the very first time I got high, for real, and I enjoyed it. Only if I could have went to sleep and woke up where I left off at, I'd have never used no more. But it didn't happen like that. I woke up, I was clean, and I wanted to get back to where I was yesterday. And all my life I wind up in Narcotics Anonymous, still trying to get back like I was the first time. So what I know about vigilance is when I got through the first time I went through the steps, I got to 12, I said, damn, I'm finished. My sponsor said, no, read that. What it says right there. This is not the end, this is just the beginning. He said, now go back and do a first step. Again? He said, yeah. And I got the first step. He said, why is your life unmanageable? I said, my life ain't unmanageable. I pay my bills, I pay my rent, I pay my car note. He said, that's just being responsible. Why your life unmanageable? My life ain't unmanageable. He said, go home and write down 3 things that make your life unmanageable. Pray first. I went home, I come back the next day, I showed him the paper. He said, why you got women up there? I said, women make my life unmanageable. He said, women don't make your life unmanageable. It's the lies and the manipulation you tell those women that make your life unmanageable in people. So then I began to work the steps again. As I stand here today, I brought my 4th step up here with me. This is my 8th time going through the steps. I don't have no problem with no steps. One thing I found out about the steps, though, the more vigilance I found out, I come to find out this. I am one of the most interesting persons in Narcotics Anonymous. And I mean that for real, from the bottom of my heart. I'm one of the most interesting persons, so I don't have no time to worry about what you doing and what you ain't doing. Just look at myself. And the more I look at myself, the better I get with myself. The more I start learning to like myself, I had a thing like I used to love myself, but then like my man was just saying, if you like yourself, self-centeredness, self-hatred, why did we go do the things we did to ourselves if we liked ourselves? You have to learn how to like yourself, and when you work on yourself, you start learning how to like yourself, and once you start learning to like yourself, then you'll start learning to love yourself, and once you start learning to love yourself, then you won't do some of the things we do to ourselves. I was always attracted to pretty women, but then when I was using, for some reason, the little dusty one over there on the street corner, I go over there with her. You know what I'm saying? So when I got clean and I come into NA, I brought that with me. But today, what I found out about this addict today, you need to be in a relationship with God. I'm going to share this and be through. I moved to Florida. I lived in a $1,300 a month condominium. Beautiful. Boy, I lived there for 3 years. I didn't have no woman living with me. And what I learned, living by myself, I learned to live with God. See, I ain't got to be home a certain time. It's something about once you get spiritual connected, I don't need nobody around me. I ain't got to call my sponsor and ask him for some of the things I hear in recovery today. I just don't agree with. I'm not getting ready to call no individual and ask him to make a decision for me. Because then when he makes the decision and it don't turn out right, I'm going to blame him. I make my own damn decisions. Bad, good, or indifferent, they all got consequences. And what I've learned in recovery through this step work is start using good common sense. Common sense. You know, when we was little, we go in the store and steal something, and some say, steal it, you can get away with it. And then some say, don't steal it. Some say, steal it, don't steal it. Then when you steal it and get caught, the first thing you say, I knew I shouldn't have stole that. But that was God trying to tell you not to steal it. But I've learned one thing about vigilance. I leave y'all with this. In the basic text, it's 8 enemies of recovery. It's 8 enemies of recovery. Procrastination is one. Yourself is one. And there's 6 more in there. Find them in the basic text. It's 8 enemies of recovery. And they read one in Why We Here. With that, I pass. Thanks.
All right.